bit earlier. By the end of this weekend, we will be saying Wiedersehen, farewell to a bunch of teams, so you definitely don't want to start off this rough. Free to Clan definitely want to at least be able to pull one back and prove that they are clearly in the running. Because I say Fat Penguin, we mentioned the background, the fact that a lot of these players have been kind of looming at the top of the leaderboards, but actually if you think about like people's rankings, you know, this is not necessarily seen as a top free team by the wider audience. Maybe incorrectly so, considering how capable they're proving, but for a lot of people, they're thinking Chimps, Los Polos Hermanos, and probably Free Beavers and a Turkey to be atop their list.
It's difficult to assess how strong this 3D team is in reality, because you look at B, obviously premier player, Garnath, someone that he plays a lot with. But then you have kind of the dark horse, in literal terms, that being Dark. Extremely talented young player, only 18 years of age, coming from AOE2. Very talented, very young, but didn't really spend a lot of time in AOE4 recently, so he's kind of the wild card in many ways. If we had a third player who also spends considerable time in AOE4, I think a lot of players, a lot of people would be much more confident saying that, hey, this 3D team really means business. Right now, it's a bit of a question mark.
Yeah, and of course, Fat Penguin mean business as well. We already highlighted in the pregame that CsOH, very capable player. You just don't know of him on the 1v1s because they don't play 1v1s. They've said they only like team games, the only thing they're going to play. Louis is a name we've seen all too many places already. And of course, the third member won't need to get a miracle. He usually is the miracle. It is, of course, YUImetal, who frequently finds themselves in the top 20 on the leaderboard in 1v1. So these guys are no pushover. And opening up, it looks like Louis is going to be going in for the baby at arms. First men arms coming out from the English player. And they are heading straight towards the Malian base here.
Interesting idea. Don't forget that you have 3 players out here. So if you mix your men at arms, a couple of spearmen as well coming in here from CsOH, plus the scouts, it doesn't take a ton of time to burn down these buildings. And don't forget, every single building lit ablaze is bounty for the Mongols. So it's very possible we're going to see, like what, 6, 7 buildings worth of bounty falling into the hands of our Malian player. Defensive tower out there for Garnath already though, so at least you won't be able to tower rush the HRE.
Yeah, this has been a frequent opener for the HRE. We see this all the time. Also, this is by design, right? The way they've laid out their players, because there is a way to force the central position for one player in the lobby. So they intentionally put Dark at the back so that he couldn't be harassed like this. And the HRE player is always comfortable to secure an 8k gold stack by dropping an outpost. However, because he's only set up 1 outpost, as opposed to 2 that we sometimes see, there's still an opportunity now for him to be outpost block on that gold. And interesting detail here, Louis, he didn't wait to start torching the buildings. Typically, you allow the Mongol player to throw the final torch. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case here, though.
I think it's the game of distances. It would be too much of a walk for CsOH to come over here. He's on the opposing side of the map, and he's also busy tower rushing this HRE player, so he won't really be coming this way. It looks like this tower rush isn't really come to fruition either, so this might actually be the time where you pull those spearmen and say, okay, I might as well make a run for it. Maybe I get some bounty.
I mean, it feels like it's a little bit too late to get the bounty. You can see house is already ablaze and landmark being built up. Like, this is the type of play, if you want to do it, if you want to get value, has to be immediate. Because most Malian players have identified the mistakes that were being made in the opening weeks. They don't build the Mansa Quarry anymore. They frequently go in for the defensive choice by setting up an outpost straight away.
Yeah, and so far, defense is nice from 3D. They anticipated aggression out there, not just from the Mongol player, but also from the English player. And this is a pretty pricey investment we're looking at here for Louis. He went all the way to 4 men at arms, and with the School of Cavalry already finishing for Dark, he's going to be able to repel this without any challenges. Or at least he should be.
Well, he's going to be harassed initially, but once he has 2 knights out, he cleans this up. Even 1 knight can cycle charge and kill the men-at-arms, easy peasy. You have to remember, like, Louis is still age 1. So if you check the damage to his men-at-arms, it's pitifully low. About half of it is actually going to be mitigated by a knight's natural armor. Interesting second mining camp coming up. Dark's like, I need anything I can get. Good luck with that, buddy. Not going to happen. Honestly, if CsOH just moves across and hits that once with an arrow, you can't even deny it. But looks like Dark will deny it before that occurs.
Yeah, I love the extra spearmen being added. That was a delayed second batch of spearmen, but they realized that they could do some damage here to the French player. And initially, this didn't seem threatening with only the man-at-arms being here. But now that the spearmen are also around, this is annoying for Dark, because one thing that this is creating is a gap between the French players. And that might be the win condition. We talked about this before the game.
Where is Dark going? He's actually running all the way.
Aggro the board. Let's go.
No, not like this. He's
gonna
going
do
to
it.
the HRE base. He did. He hit the aggro, but like this is the weird part. Dark is running to the HRE base because there's already outposts set up there. But the idle time that this is incurring is high. Remember, like, I don't believe he has wheelbarrow by the looks of it. Like these guys were at least initially very slow.
Yeah, this is
I think they've got
terrible.
it now.
This is terrible, and we talked about this. The gap between the French players could easily be the difference maker, because it's gonna come down to those knight numbers initially, and there's a massive lead already in the hands of YUImetal. And as you said, it's gonna be such a massive delay. I'm scared for 3D right now.
Is it me? Does it start to feel like 3D are just obsessed with being in each other's bases, right? Like we had the full migration game one. Now it's kind of a half migration from the French player, really. I'm surprised he didn't just build the school of cavalry over here. Feels like he wanted to. Rough start though, and I mean, honestly, keep in mind your teammates are still going to be open to raids here. You're already seeing the first of Yui's knights raiding in, and this time because you move your knights east side and your villagers as well, there's no one at home to protect against this.
This is terrible. Dark is losing villagers, a little slow to react as well, goes down by 2. And as I said, this is why many consider this team, this 3D team, a bit of a question mark. How is Dark going to live up to the expectations? So far, a little bit of a sluggish start here in this game. Having a tough time. Is only at 1 knight as compared to 3 already coming out. And do keep in mind that behind this, CSO is going for a silver tree. If there are no knights from 3D to threaten that, once again, the Chinese team, the Fat Penguin, is gonna get away with the trade.
And it's kind of wacky to see B just essentially be the eco provider. Usually when I've seen 3D Clan in the past, especially in team formats, B is the focus point, right? It's whatever we can do to get B's game unlocked. Instead, feels like he's having to unlock Garnath's game. And then it feels like Garnath is having to unlock Dark's game. Like it's...
Yeah, it's
kind of
hard,
weird.
right? Because
yeah.
I would have expected that you give French to your best player. You really need every single little detail to match it. And as you said, B being Mono-Alliance, you would think that you don't give the best player on your team possibly the role of slinging. Now, B loves to play archers the Malians, but you feel like this game plan just fell apart right from the beginning. The moment the knights were gone for Dark, the moment he got that setback on him, making archers for B makes little sense, and from this point on, it's just pain and agony. Especially because now we have enough knights to just dive in and possibly pick off villagers on that landmark.
Olympian diving going on right here. Straight move on in. Garnath probably going to lose 2 of the villagers straight off the bat. Remember, he's being idled out, prevented from taking up here, and any delay is going to sting him because look what's happening in the meantime. Magadai count is now rising for CSO. After he's got the trade online, he'll be able to afford this in abundance here. Magadai are a great solution to the HRE Burgrave rush. The only way they'll be able to counter this is if B starts getting troops soon. So far, he's got nothing. He's teching up himself. Remember, Garrison is being built. With this, I'm expecting javelin throwers, but they are so far away. They're on the other side of the map.
Yeah. I love this combination, really. The Mangadai, it's a solution to everything that 3D has right now. Not just the Burgrave Palace or the future infantry from the Burgrave Palace, even the Knights. They're doing a good job against Knights. They can kite away. They do have decent armor-piercing power, and you see, right now, 3D is struggling to stop this. This landmark will eventually go up. The question is the price you have to pay for it.
The Magadai are going to be pressed back for the time being, so it looks like there's enough Knights here from Dark to cover the tech up, or at least the remainder of it. Knights took a heavy beating from Yui. So they'll just back away for the time being. B has teched up now in Castle Age, and this is where we should get our answer. What is the Frimber going to be being built? Build here. I assume it's going to be the Javelins. But like once again, they are so far away. I just feel like you're going to get cut to pieces as you try to run across the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think right now, first of all, you're going to get your reinforcements intercepted. The bigger thing is that by the time they arrive, Dark and Garnath will be in a tough position, and then they might struggle to contribute much army themselves. And from that point on, it's a very one-dimensional army for 3D, and you can get your counters set up to that. Knight numbers are looking decent for Dark, but as you said, Mangadai numbers increasing, and once you have some trade going on for CSO, those Mangadai numbers will skyrocket, and then good luck stopping that. They will just run past your base, pick off 20 villagers, disengage, and they will rinse and repeat.
Yeah, so I'm actually expecting CsOH to try and go up to Castle Age now, because the problem you have is Magadai's damage is underwhelming against men-at-arms with the armor upgrades. So best play you can make now, catch up in the Castle Age, upgrade Magadai, and continue to push them. Because, you know, you're going to have 2 teammates pushing Knights, which means the French player is going to be disarmed, essentially, and those Javelin throwers are going to be unprotected. So we'll see if they do actually opt to go that way. I think they never actually bothered to set up any trade either. So considering the lack of new troops, it does look like this is going to be a Castle Age rush now of CSO.
Yeah, it likely will be. Indeed, there comes the step out. Understandable, they keep the window open for the trading, but right now they're approaching this cautiously. They see the blood in the water, and they realize that there is more value in being aggressive and turning your resources into army and actual damage done to your opponents than just going greedy.
Wait, is Dark just thinking of rushing Castle Age as well? I think he is. Okay, he started adding more knights. Like, he just stopped for a long time there. I was getting a little bit worried. Like, look at the knight count right now. Yui's doubled him up. So Dark, he was making some sort of side investment. Either he was either walking out to a new point to gather from, or he was switching farms. I wouldn't be surprised if he was switching farms, considering the amount of cavalry teams he's up against.
Yeah, he already started adding some farms, and look at that. This is the problem with the javelin throwers. Massive interception here by the knights. At least they got a couple of Mangadais, so some value is there. But as you said, it's going to be so difficult to keep these alive crossing the map. Now, they've grouped up their armies, and now you have to ask some questions, because while you still have 18 knights over here for YUImetal, Mangadai won't be able to contribute much over here, and those men-at-arms already have maces, so knights, especially feudal age knights, may be insufficient here.
It's 200 maces as well, as much damage as you can possibly get. Love this choice by Yui instead to start diving in the base, just idle up. Also, with this many knights is enough to kill a trickle of men-at-arms, as long as you get the charge out. Not like this, though. That's a pretty rough way to take a fight.
Yes, it is. Hello? Where are you going, my friend?
Goodbye to Magadai. Deaf in the name, deaf in the game, as is typical here. I don't honestly, this marketplace, I think he might have accidentally selected it with something else. I'm not either that, or he was thinking of doing corner to corner trade and like sneaking a marketplace to the west of Yui's base, maybe.
I mean, that is something I would call ambitious. Let's just say that.
That's what he was doing actually, because like, if you look, the south corner has the neutral trade post, and he has the silver tree down there already.
Yeah.
So he was trying to go across the field, get south in the other corner, but got caught out in the middle of no man's land.
Yeah, I guess that might have been the kind of surprise place to hide your trade at.
That's a lot of knights.
Yes.
I think 2 players could lose their army here, or at least Garnath will lose half his army, right? Like they need to get out fast, because there's no way Miracle, aka YUImetal, is going to let them get away for free.
Yeah. And the concern is that B's got 22 javelin throwers, but only a handful of them on the playing field. Once they die, those crossbows will rip apart everything on the other side.
And there's the crossbows now coming in from Louis. Love this choice. English players don't do it often, but it is going to pay out damage and pain to 3D Clan. Remember, those javelin throwers, they can't easily run away either. And they're a premium unit. They cost the same as the crossbows, but do nothing against these knights.
Yeah, and look at that. Infantry getting picked apart. Retreating reinforcements intercepted by now Castle Age Mangadai as well. This is a cleanup. Massive value destroyed here by the Fat Penguins.
And there's layers to this cake, baby. I can taste a little bit of clot of cream, maybe some jam in there, because the Magadai count is going to jam you up. They're rebuilding, and they're Castle Age now. So their damage is significantly higher. They're going to be able to just tear apart these heavily armored units. If this javelin thrower line ever gets smashed, I think 3D Clan are done in this game.
Yeah, I think that moment is getting closer. How are you going to stop these knights? Now you can just dive on those javelin throwers. Nice little micro here by B to juke the first wave of knights, but he's getting baited to the middle of the playing field. This is all like a bait, and here come the knights. That army should not live.
Yeah, he's got pinched. Gets to stand his ground now. Crossbow's even going to come into play again and say, okay, we got good base damage. Let's do this. Willing to trade out. Knight count is looking baby level now from Dark. He's just not contributing anything. Javelin throws, remember, 120 resources each. Incredibly glass cannon-y type unit against melee. You can't afford to let your numbers shrink here, because that knight count for Yui continues to escalate.
Oh, he's going to get it. Let's go.
There you go. They're blind. They're blind now. They've lost Lidakor. They can't see any. Okay, that's not believable at all. Oh, man, he's baiting him with these crossbows. Javelin's going even further away. This is where Yui could just run past and clean up the javelins.
Yeah. And he will.
What? He's just going to clean up the... No, he's going to clean up the men-at-arms.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
He has so much that he can just clean up the men-at-arms. I think he could commit, especially if he charges in again.
I think it's like unnecessary, right? It's kind of overkill. Just run away from this. The Magadai count will deal with it. You need to deal with javelin throwers, because if Yui ever loses this night ball, they could lose the game. Like, he is key to the success right now.
That's very true. I love the Magadai run-bys. It's risky to run into range of these TCs, but right now, 3D is preoccupied with the middle of the playing field. They can't spare anything, and these Mangadai are really good just to pick apart these defenses. Also good to spot a second town center here from Dark.
Yeah, and he also has the Khan there. It's very important in these smaller numbers to have the Khan because you're fragile. Like, you can't take a straight fight, right? You're Raiders at the moment, but this number will continue to escalate. See, once CSO gets to about 24, 25 of these Magadai, that's when he'll join the main fight. Because the issue you have is, like, Javelin Throwers seem like a great solution to Magadai, and they are in a vacuum, but they're also slow. You may have noticed this. Javelin Throwers feel slower than most other range units, and it means that the Magadai don't necessarily die quick enough before they have their impact on the other part of the fight.
Indeed. For the time being, Mangadai numbers are not super high, but as you said, they're slowly escalating, and don't forget, in Castle Age, you get a unique upgrade as well for the damage, so it's not just the veterancy, it's that extra upgrade, which is going to make their armor-piercing capabilities a lot better as well.
Knights, they found the prime target here. Javelin throwers are spread out, but the villagers are running for the high hills. B, remember, he didn't set up greed. He needs this gold because he's been pushing these units out of the Farimba garrison. And that idle time alone is going to cripple him. What a move coming out from Yui.
I love it. You realize that there aren't really a lot of knights from Dark. Infantry can't catch up to the knights, so you just dive in. And you know that B has to commit fully to the javelin throwers.
And he has
a
no
massacre.
Room. Yeah, B has no room. Like, this hotel is full, sir. Find somewhere else to sleep for the night. It looks like the men-at-arms are finally going to arrive, but you see the value of a French player on this map. It's so big, it's so open, it's so hard to react on the flanks when you see them commit like this.
And this is the discrepancy between the French players we mentioned so many times. The advantage on the knight numbers, that just translates into an ability to strike where the opponent can't react fast enough, and every once in a while chip away with some damage. The main reason why this is happening right now to 3D is because their knight numbers are substantially lower.
And the crazy part is, like, we haven't really seen a Fat Penguin directly take a 3-on-3 engagement so far, right? It's just one player making the other players on the other side dance to their tune. So imagine what happens when these three group together finally. Just look at the military count. Look at the efficiency of their units, you know, how they're outnumbering, the scalability they have as well. Like, Garnath is no doubt going to run out of steam soon. Sure, we see him getting slinged a lot of beef. But as we have already highlighted, B is on finite resources here. This is not infinite scaling, this is not trade, and he's also being idled out constantly by Yui in his own base.
And don't forget, Yui is still in Feudal Age. If he ever gets to Castle Age, these knights will turn into beasts. We could talk about even Royal Institute at this point. And look at that. Now Louis is also coming online. We haven't talked a lot about him so far. They will just dive because, once again, you isolate the armies from 3D and you force Garnath to fight against crossbows with men-at-arms, which is a terrible engagement for the HRE here.
And this is just brilliant. They finally realized what the problem was, what's threatening them. Yui just needs to keep B out of the equation. If these javelin throwers aren't there, the crossbow ball wins. The Magadai win. Who else is going to be ranged on this lineup? Is Dark going to contribute Feudal Age archers? No. Is an HRE player ever going to build something that doesn't have a sword or a mace? Also no.
And look at that. 52 men-at-arms on the playing field for Garnath. Do you see it on the battlefield, though? Absolutely not. The Fat Penguin is doing such a terrific job making sure that those men-at-arms are never a factor. They're just tearing apart the defenses, and you can see on the minimap, the moment they shift to the right, the Green Knights dive into B's base. Once again, it's a slaughterhouse. And yeah, feels like a never-ending cycle right now.
Honestly, I don't think they should be called men-at-arms. They should have some of their name to do with legs, right? Because they clearly haven't been skipping leg day. I feel like the last several minutes has just been this death ball of men-at-arms running left and right across the battlefield. They've never been able to take a direct fight like they want to. They're going to struggle to still here. Crossbows are going to look to stand their ground. All three players have converged on this one location. Means Yui can do what the hell he chooses. And even in a 2v3 situation, this army could potentially hold it. Magadai count is looking high, Javelin thrower count is low, and it means that you are now just going to get kited to death. Look at that knight count and how it just disappears. Dark is running out of army fast.
Yeah, they're running out of army over here. You could engage with the javelin throwers even here. Only a handful of them remaining on the playing field. Men-at-arms still flooding, but their numbers are dropping so fast. And the Mangadais, as you said, they will just kite away. When they feel like they don't want to take this fight, they will just disengage. And at the end of the day, we're still looking at 32 knights for YUImetal. And I think they're shifting to this side. They'll feel the blood in the water. I think now is the time to merge armies and dive.
And, you know, the Magadai count is equal in that French Knight count as well. And, you know, these Magadai are so crucial to their success. It seems really underwhelming, but it just prevents their opponents from committing to a fight. You know, I usually call the tier 1 men at arms baby arms, but like these knights, these men at arms rather we're seeing here in Castle Age have baby arms. They can't reach anything. You see them chasing, desperately trying to grab, but they can never seem to reach. And that's the power of the Magadai. It's great against the knights as well. The only thing that was keeping them looking somewhat competitive in this game was a javelin throw account. But when you've got this many Magadai, you don't care. You can beeline straight for the javelin throws. You can take out the men at arms. And yet look, once again, despite the fact that army should be countered here, it doesn't feel like it at all. In fact, the Magadai are going to clean up the javelins.
That's crazy. Newly made man-at-arms also getting picked off, and the value destroyed is much more massive on the side of the Fat Penguin team. Sure enough, you're losing some of those pricey Magadai, but you're picking off so many of those premium units, the man-at-arms as well, the javelin throwers, that it's easily worth it. And you have scalability because you have 50 eco lead, plus now a trade being set up as well. I feel like Fat Penguin is just putting the pedal to the metal, and I don't think they will let this slip out of their grasp.
And of course, you know, Fat Penguin, they're even teaching us all how to counter along the way. You've got 2, 3, and 4 in terms of age ups, right? Louis, sure he's in that fight, but he was taken up behind this. They're in page already. English is now fully unlocked. They're fully ready to boom and make sure you explode out of this series. Remember, folks, Fat Penguin took a pretty dominant game 1, and now they look posed to take a dominant series over 3D Clan here.
And now if you're Louis, you could do a lot of things. You could switch into knights on your own. You could continue crossbows. You could go very heavy on the eco and sling the other 2 players. But I feel like one thing that you should definitely think about is getting some resources sent to YUImetal. Because if you get these knights to Castle Age versions, that's game over for 3D.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think right now they just want to scale their own army, right? Like, Magadais are not cheap, and then also Louis nowhere near full. Right, I think actually it's kind of more beneficial to just have him build up his crossbow spear battalion and also upgrade them because they're still only in Castle Age. Because right now, these 2 other players, so the Mongol player and the French player, even off these tech ups, are raiders. While the English player is your killer. He will end the game once he arrives.
And once he arrives,
no.
I mean, just look at the
Wait,
minimap.
Is that open? I think that's open on the backside. I don't think B even protected himself on that gold vein. Oh, good God.
Oh, it's just looking worse and worse. And if you look at the minimap, there is just a string of teal units crossing the map. This is where the English come online. Mostly just spearmen and crossbows at this point. I mean, they're realizing that even the men-at-arms are no longer a threat.
Yeah, and some people want, well, why not longbows? Because some people argue longbows can kind of beat out javelin throws. It's not just the men-at-arms, it's an efficient choice for the map. You can't build more wood units in this map. There's not enough wood, and there's no time left for 3D Clan. They wave the white flag. A Fat Penguin come in with a dominant 2-0 victory to open up this tournament.
We are seeing team chemistry on a perfect showcase. We've talked about this team, the Fat Penguins, as a combination of team game players. Most of them barely play 1v1s. And it's showing that they spend most of their time in team games because their chemistry was just immaculate. In both of the games, the reactions were swift, execution was always right, and the positioning of their armies was always perfect. In this game, you could just see how they could rip apart 3D by always being at the right place at the right time, never taking suboptimal engagements because of that.